Welcome to Etihad Cargo Connections. I'm your host, Rowan Anderson, and joining me today is General Manager of Al Shahana Stud, Dean Lavy. Welcome, Dean. How are we today, mate?
I'm very good. Thank you so much.
How's
Looking
it? How's the
forward
weather
to
there?
this.
How's it there?
Actually, it's nice. We've had a bit of unusual weather streak. It didn't rain here for almost 3 years, and it's rained for a month. So we're happy to see the sunshine. Actually,
And you're in Qatar, aren't you?
I'm based in Doha, Qatar.
Yeah,
Yes, that's correct.
beautiful, beautiful.
Yes.
So we'll just start off from the start. In the past, and how did you get involved with horses and horse industry originally?
Well, that goes back a few years, anyways. Back into the late '70s, early '80s. When I was actually in high school, we moved from northern state of Michigan in the United States to Kentucky, which is horse country. And a lot of my friends were working part time with the horses and stuff. I've always had a love for animals and horses, and so I started doing it as a summer job. And you get hooked. I've worked with quarter horses, polo ponies, standard breds, saddle breds, and then I got into the thoroughbreds. I straight out of school, and it all began there. Back in the early '80s, '81 or so, I started full time with thoroughbreds, and they continued on. I then was with a local farm there in Kentucky for 5 years, and then I took a job with the Maktoum family, royal family of Dubai, for Maktoum Al Maktoum at Gainesboro Stud in Kentucky, and I was there for 26 years. And then I've come from there to Qatar. I've been in Doha now for 10 years. So, and I made the switch to Arabians. We have thoroughbreds, Arabian, we have show, we had endurance. So mixed discipline here in Doha. But I've really enjoyed the transition to the Arabian horses. It's a lot of similarities between the Arabian and the thoroughbred, just a speed difference, and the mentalities are a little bit different. But no, it's been interesting. Yes.
And you mentioned the move from Michigan to Kentucky, and Kentucky's such, as you
Yes.
said, such a huge horse-orientated place.
Yeah.
Some would consider it, the pinnacle of horse racing in America or in the
Mm.
States. How's Michigan? I'm not too sure. How's Michigan in terms of horse industry, horse racing?
Was none. I was obviously young at that stage. I mean, we moved to obviously I moved with my family, my parents, to Kentucky when I was 15. But I always had a love for the outdoors, animals, hunting, fishing, this kind of thing. My whole life. I grew up in a Michigan outdoorsy kind of place, camping and this kind of thing, and
Mm.
so I always enjoyed it. And then I got introduced to the horses there when I was in Kentucky, and you fall in love with them. It turns into a passion. You got to have the passion for them for sure. So
And that
that's
was my
kind of
next that was my next question about the passion side of things. Were you introduced to horses with the move to Kentucky, or was there any family involvement around horses or farming back in Michigan?
no. I mean, not that kind, not any kind of horse farming, but cattle operations, things like this, the swine, the pigs, and things like this. Like I said, I always enjoyed the outdoors and farming and that kind of thing. But no, the passion just became once you started working with them yourself, and they're such a cool animal. They're so majestic and big, and they all have their own personalities. A lot more personality than a lot of people give them credit
Yeah,
for that don't deal with horses.
yeah, most definitely.
They become your friends for sure, and then when you're raising them as athletes, you especially if you're breeding and raising those kind of things, it's for me, it's so much better to raise one than to buy one that's already successful.
Mm.
There's just that's the pinnacle for me as a homebred. And for most owners, they would rather raise one than purchase one. Of course, I mean, if you can make it and then make it the best, it's better. So.
Yeah, most definitely. I thought you were going to say that some horses had more personality than most humans, and I would have to tend to agree with you on that as well.
Well, I can tell you one thing, they're a lot easier to deal with. The horses are easy, it's the people that are difficult, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
And the
Yeah.
stud you work with currently, and you're the manager there, is one of the world's leading Arabian horse racing operations in the world, with the care of the animal as well as the focus on getting the best from the historic bloodline at its core. When did you first get involved with the stud? Was it off the back of that work with the Maktoums in Dubai? And how did that initiate, that first connection with the stud and getting involved with them?
Yeah, yeah, obviously had some influence on it for sure. My dealings with the Arab culture for that long of time was attractive to the guys here in Qatar. I actually would, like I said, I was there for 26 years for the Maktums. The first 20 years was Maktoum Al Maktoum, and then to Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid for another 6. And then I took a break. Things changed a little bit logistically for me there. We were left on, very grateful to be part of it, but some of the perks that I had, I lost, that I had a big interest in, keen, which is fair enough when you transition from owners. And so I took a break for about a year and I went into an electrical contracting company and traveled and project managed some jobs. I like construction and things like that as well too. Um, so after about a year, I started looking again, and then they contacted me here from Doha, and I had a big interest. They definitely was my background with Dubai that attracted them for sure. It culturally it helps if you been with the people for a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
there's it's a different world, and they're fantastic people. Um, and I've really enjoyed it here, and to the farm, yeah, been very lucky to be here with Sheikh Mohammed. His passion for the game, his drive for it. He's very involved day to day here with the breeding, the racing. Very actively involved with him on the phone almost every day, and his passion pushes you as well. And we've been very lucky, very lucky. Obviously it takes some skill, but he's got the right horses and we've got the right facility, and we've improved that facility a lot. And you have to keep up with the times.
Mm.
So
Mm. And just a little about your position as manager there, just a little bit about the job and, what working for the stud means to yourself in that position.
well, I get to do a little bit of everything. I think I probably have one of the better jobs because I can sit in my office, but then I can walk downstairs and go outside and see the horses too,
Yeah.
and look at the
Yeah.
property. But I do a little bit of everything. You need to know about electric, you need to know about plumbing, you need to know about construction, you need to know about pasture management, HR, financial. I do it. It's a full round for me with everything. But then the horse is the core of that, and it's really cool. I'm involved with the breeding. We're involved with the race placement, the training. We have a farm in France as well, in Normandy, and so very involved with that farm as well. Because Doha is the hub, everything comes through here. Everything's managed through here, and so yeah, it's been a good ride. And I'm proud of this place. We've done so much work to it. We've got spas and walkers and swimming pool and new stables and lots of paddocks. We put in a new 2,000-meter grass track, and Sheikh Mohammed's been very gracious in allowing us to improve the property as well. So that's how you got to keep up with the times.
Yeah, most definitely. And you've had great success around the world. As you mentioned, you've got that farm in Normandy as well. But in Qatar, you've had immense success with several horses, including Methgal and Braz, who have captured multiple Group 1s for the stud. What have been some key highlights for the studs since you've come on board?
Well, I mean, there's been a numerous horses, Aussie,
Mm.
Gazwan,
Mm.
Ibraz, then some of the great fillies, Jenka DeForge, Makipa, Arij. There's been very lucky to be around these. So obviously, Ibraz is one of the top ones since I've been involved. Winning the Triple Crown, and what a champion he was, and we're really looking forward to his next career as a stallion.
Mm.
Um, but I've been extremely lucky to be around a lot of just top Arabian, but some of the best in the world. So
Yeah.
it's been quite the experience.
And just going back to something you said earlier, just about how thoroughbreds and Arabians do have a lot in common. But I remember talking with the trainer Jean de Rual, who said that he never was aware of Arabians until he got involved with the Sheikh and training them. And he said that the real difference is that he said when you tell an Arabian yes, it says no, and when you tell it no, it says yes. So they have their own unique personality in terms of knowing what they want to do, and if you push them too hard, then you just ruin the beast. Would that be correct?
100%. I
Yeah,
agree with all that 100%. You know, the thoroughbreds seem to be more of a workhorse mentality. You know, they go, 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 and you can push them and get more out of them. The Arabs sometimes are too smart
yeah,
and they don't want to go to work every day. And the more you push them, the further they back up on you, you know. And so they're very, even the best ones. Ibraz was, yeah, obviously one of the best horses in the world. You would never have picked him in the morning. He
mhm,
hated to go to work in the morning, but he showed up when it was time to run, you know.
yeah.
So, and we find that with a lot of the good ones we deal with now. They just they're a little bit trickier for sure, for sure.
And it must mean a lot as well to know, starting with the initial mare and stallion and seeing, the progression of pedigree and history, in what the stud has to provide in terms of
Mm.
talent.
Yeah, for sure. You know, we're seeing that change a lot. You know, you talk about pedigree, and pedigree's changing a lot in the Arabian horses,
Yeah.
and you're starting to see a lot more speed factor into the Arabian. I think this is becoming vitally important. Our families, especially, are the classic distance Arabians at 2,000 meters plus to 2,400. And now we're seeing so much speed getting injected into the racing, especially in the Middle East. You know, Europe is still, you know, they go pretty slow until the end. The last 400 meters they
Mm,
run, but from you know, and the Middle East racing is growing so huge, you know, with Bahrain and Saudi and
mm,
Abu Dhabi,
mm.
Dubai, Oman, and now here, and the speed is you see such a difference now with speed. As soon as the gate opens, it's gone, and this is you're even seeing this with the 2,000 meter races, 2,400 meter races, and so pedigrees are changing a bit. You know, we're starting to see a little more similarities like thoroughbred breeding with the Arabians and trying to inject the speed into the Arabians.
Yeah, most definitely. And we'll
Yeah.
just we spoke on the past. We'll talk about the current crop of stars. You've got the Colt Samlar who returns to the track after last year winning two Group Ones in the Qatar International Stakes and
Yeah.
Qatar International Cup, as well as the
Yeah.
Group Two French Arabian Breeders' Challenge
Yeah.
Sprint last September. What can you tell us about his pedigree as well as his form and how he looks?
Well, obviously, you know, we're very happy with him. He's a homebred for us by Aussie, so out of one of our own horses.
Yeah,
And then he's out of Jacara de Forge. The Forge family is a great French family. Jamor de Forge, Jenka de Forge, Jamara de Forge. You know, it's all a fantastic producing line. And the important thing is you know Aussie always had a little bit of speed and so that's what we're seeing the injection of. And Samla started off, you know, he was more of a 1,600 meter horse. He was a fantastic miler, and then we see now with age he's stretching out. He did win at 2,000 meters early on, but now in speaking with Francois Rowe, his distance gets further and further, and we're much more happy with him. His transition to dirt has been okay. We think he's going to do well. You know, he just ran in Poe a few weeks ago on the poly and was very, very impressive at 2,000 meters, wire to wire win like a morning work.
mm,
And so, you know, we're excited to see him go. And I think he can run on multiple surfaces too. So that's exciting. Maybe that then leads you to Cahala Classic,
mm,
you know, things like this. And then I think future, you know, the World Cup race and Arc de Triomphe weekend is in his wheelhouse. You
mm.
know, I think the distance is going to be there. You know, so we're excited about his even though he's 5, we're excited. You know, these guys run until they're 8 or 9, so
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
that's the difference too. So yeah, we're very excited with how he's transitioned.
And he's being prepped for the 2,000 meter on dirt, isn't he, in Qatar?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's where we're headed with him. That's for sure.
Yeah, awesome.
Yes.
And then
So,
you got the Philly Image de Croat who won the Qatar
yes.
Qatar Oaks last season, but in 2021 she got the Group Three Pre Nevada and Group One Qatar Arabian Trophy in St. Cloud. What can you tell
Yeah.
us about her pedigree and her performances in training so far?
Well, she's Moongee's Philly out of Bini de Croate. You know, it's all French, you know, all the way through on that side. She obviously, as a 3-year-old winning in St. Cloud, was extremely impressive. And then she came back nicely, but then she had a little bit of a setback health wise early in April of last year, and she didn't run. So we decided to give her a fresh look, bring her to Doha, We always thought she might like it, the hard and the fast,
Hmm.
and just a change of scenery for her. And we were happy. Her first run here, she ran third, and then she came back and won the Oaks. So she's going to go to Saudi for the 2100 meter on the turf, and she's training very well. She had a nice work this morning. I got to watch her work on the grass today, and we're very pleased with her. So yeah, we're excited with the two horses we got going to Saudi. We hadn't been, so it's our first journey there. So we're excited to take two very good horses.
And just quickly, just a moment ago, we were talking about the filly was in France, and then you decided to bring her out to Qatar to give her,
Yes.
go and have a look at her and how she would go on a different surface. Is that a common practice? If a horse doesn't has a bit of a niggle or something abroad, at your other site in France, you bring it to Doha and see, reevaluate on a different surface and see how they go there.
We do, especially if there's a quality horse there,
Yeah,
underlying, and then you see them struggle for whatever reason, and then a lot of it depends on the action of the horse and how they
yeah,
run.
yeah,
And the trainers give you a lot of that advice that they think, maybe the horse will like to fight. And then the reverse for us here, we raise a lot of horses in Doha that are born and raised on the hard and fast, but yet they have a French pedigree or French breeding. And so then we, if they seem to have the quality, but they're struggling here with the speed, then we shift those to France and see if the surface can make a difference. So yeah, we've done that several times and had very good success with it. Like again, it's with the quality horses, but
yeah,
yes, for
most
sure.
definitely. And you've got 6 nominated for the Almanetha Cup and 2 nominated for the Bayer Arabian Classic. Just looking at those nominations, I see that Amir de Soleil is actually nominated for both. Which race would you see running over the other in terms of plans for them?
Actually, right now we're going to go Samla with the dirt, and we
Okay.
will go Croyd on the turf, and that's it. The other horses, the problem with the Saudi race is it's 1 week after
Yeah.
our big race,
Yeah.
the Amir Sword here, so it's a very difficult, strategically to do. Obviously, there's a lot of pride involved with the race for Doha,
Yeah.
and that's a huge weekend for us, our biggest weekend of the year. And so we got to save some of the horses for the weekends, So
Yeah.
some of those horses, Hargon, Amir de Soleil, we want to target obviously Amir Sword with a couple horses. But then we've got the internationals, we got GCCs, we got different distance racing, and so we gotta have 8 or 10 animals to handle the
Yeah.
racing in Doha for the Amir Sword weekend too. So we've chosen those two to go to Saudi because we want to go and experience it. I think
Yeah.
Saudi's doing a fantastic job. It's booming right now. We want to go be part of it, but we gotta leave something back for Doha for sure.
Yeah. And out of the ones you mentioned, Hagen, Harib, Rom, and
Yes,
Zad, are there any that you're planning for the DWCC? And
most definitely.
which ones are penciled in for that
All of
time?
those. You mentioned those. You mentioned
Yeah.
Harib. You mentioned Alam. You mentioned Saad. Yeah, those guys are all target horses for that
Yeah.
because we feel like they can handle the dirt. So they're going to get a run Amir Sword Week, which puts
Yeah.
us a month from the Dubai World Cup,
Yeah.
and then we'll make that decision. We've pre-entered those things. Going to base it off of the run we
Yeah.
see here in 2 weeks, but we definitely want to target DWC as well with a couple horses. So we need to see him run one more time, and then we'll make that decision. But yeah, we're gearing for that for sure.
And it comes back to, as we were discussing before, the Arabian breed and line dictating to us rather than us dictating to them as we would with a
Yes,
thoroughbred. Yeah. So
exactly.
they set their programs rather than rather than yourself and the stud set the program for the horse.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Awesome. And away from those, are there any horses you have in the stud, either up and coming or, in training, who are really ready to showcase what they can do in racing, either regionally or internationally?
We take our time with the Arabians. They're typically a little bit slower. We had such big superstars in the past. Methcal's still on the table. He's probably going to make an appearance this summer in Europe again. We've given him some nice time off, given him a break. We've got a target in mind for his career there, maybe Goodwood, something like this.
Yeah.
He's then potentially going to be a stallion for us. He's an outcross
Yeah.
stallion for us. Manya, she's gone to the breeding shed. She's a past Amir sword winner for us. Um, we've got the sister to Lady Princess, Divine Princess, who's just back in training. She had a setback last year. She's run a couple times. Been a little bit disappointing so far, but she's going to run back again. Excuse me. So yeah, and then we got a lot of 3-year-olds just turned 3, just turned 4. That we don't push. That'll make a little bit of a run. Our season will end in April this year in Doha. Maybe they're going to run once or twice here before the end of the season. Then we put them away and bring them back as 3-year-olds turning 4 and 4-year-olds turning 5. And yeah, we have a lot of promising young ones that don't really have anything to mention yet, but yeah, we've always got something coming, something.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
for sure.
we've got about 45 in training in France, that are either racing or training in full training. We use Miss Bernard, we use Tom Forsey, and we use Francis Rowe
Yeah.
mainly in France. So we've got about 45 horses there as well. And then we've got those kind of numbers in Doha as well. So, we've got 80, 90 horses, Arab horses in training. So there's always some fresh ones coming. It just takes that special one.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it's a little
And
bit hard to
so
come.
there's 80 in training currently.
Yeah, basically between
Yeah.
here and France, yes. Between Doha and France, yes.
Yeah, awesome.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and with the two that you're sending to Saudi and Solar and Image de Crouette, is it a case of them running in the 2,000-meter dirt and the 2,100-meter turf, and then, as we said, setting the program to see where they'll go to next? Or is there
Yes.
obviously a target beyond that of where they'll be penciled in for?
No, I mean, obviously, a horse like Samla, if he goes to Saudi and does very well, first time on the dirt,
Yeah.
and does extremely well there, handles it well, whether he wins or not. No, but if he runs well, yeah, we want to look at BWC for sure.
Yeah.
Amy's Decroix, we may, there's a couple more races left in Doha after the Mir Sword. We have a Sheikh Mohammed weekend, and then we have a Gold Sword weekend, the 1st of April. So that's a big weekend as well. So there's some more target races in Doha as well. Where Sama's in France, he's based in France, so we can target more of an international program with him. Or, we run him and he does well and we want to give him a break because we want to target Europe more strongly, and he'll deserve a little bit of a downtime as well. So, we just base those decisions on how well they do, how each race goes. Those kind of horses, they only run 4 or 5 times a year, and you target the big races for them. And so it all depends on how they do, how they come out of it. And then obviously the owner has a big say in where he wants to go, based on what feedback he gets from all of us.
And as you said, they only race, 3 or 4 times a year. You don't want to be wasting immense talent like that on,
Exactly. I mean,
minor
sometimes you run
races.
them in less. Sometimes you run them in a lesser race to give them a warm up. Like Samla hadn't run since October, so we ran him in Po in January on the poly to get him back, and he's fantastic. And now he'll go to the dirt. So like I said, those horses run 4 to 5 times a year, and say you're targeting the big races, and so their schedule's a little bit different than the other ones.
Yeah. And you mentioned some of the races you've had success in, Amir Sword and big features like that. What are some other features, either locally or internationally, that you'd really love to compete in?
Oh, we've obviously won the World Cup a couple times, or the Kahela Classic a couple times. The ARC weekend, the World Cup there, we've won 5 times. We've won the Amir Sword 16 times here. Now we want to look at Saudi.
Yeah.
We ran in Abu Dhabi for the first time last year with Hogar Del Artes, and he ran second to Lady Princess.
Okay.
We didn't have a horse for that, but we will target that again. So, those are kind of and then Goodwood in England is a target, as part of the Triple Crown in Doha, and it's an important race. So that's always, and we've won Goodwood a few times as well. So yeah, I mean, those are kind of the highlights.
Yeah,
Those are the big racing, and now I think the Middle East is offering so much racing.
yeah,
Not only for Arabians but for thoroughbreds as
yeah,
well. Um, and so yeah, between Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Doha, Saudi, hopefully Bahrain in the future, when
yeah,
things politically straighten out a little bit. I think Bahrain's done a fantastic job with their carnival they do now.
yeah,
Uh, I think they're doing a great job there, and that's another area. But there's a lot of good racing in the Middle East now. A lot
yeah.
of good racing, and I
And with
think we're going to see a lot of Europeans transition here.
yeah,
I really,
yeah,
because in the winter in Europe, there's not a lot, and the
yeah,
money massive now. The money is
yeah.
huge here now.
Yeah, and that leads me to my final question. With racing in the
Okay.
region of the Middle East growing so exponentially with quality races, as you said, as well as massive prize money, in Saudi, in Bahrain,
Yes.
in Qatar, in the UAE, Dubai. What are your plans for the stud over the next few years in terms of going out and conquering those races, competing as you do, race in, race out, with the insane equine talent you have within the stud between France and Doha.
Well, I mean, it's just continuing to do what we do best, and that's a consistency leads to that. But we always have to look at, like we talked about, speed into the injecting into the racing. I think this is going to be a crucial point moving forward with the Arabian racing, especially with you just mentioning the schedule that's coming up. And you always got to look at what you're doing. Are you doing it right? You got to keep up with modern times, techniques, technologies. This kind of thing is always plays the self-awareness and self-education on a lot of this stuff. It's a huge effort every day, and at the end of the day, it's just doing things right. You got to have a healthy horse that's sound, and you've got good breeding, and then you go for it. But it's like I said, this region is booming, and it's going to turn into a major epicenter of racing, I think, very,
Yeah,
very soon for
yeah,
people, not just Arabian racing, but for thoroughbreds as well,
yeah,
for
most
sure.
certainly.
Yeah.
And just one final question. Coming from
Yeah.
a young boy moving from Michigan to Kentucky,
Yes.
racing in Kentucky, racing with the Mac teams, as we said, for a long time in Dubai to where you are now. What's one of the biggest one or two lessons you've learned in terms of around horses, or just around the industry?
The horses are very humbling animals,
Yeah,
As soon as you think you got them figured out, you don't.
yeah,
But that's a very interesting question because there's not a lot. The horse business in general is a very small world,
yeah.
as massive as it is. That's what makes it so cool. I think it's one of the very unique industries. I can come to Australia, I can go to Hong Kong, I can go to China, I can go to France, England, and I'm always going to see people. I know I see people from
That's it.
Kentucky, I see people I've
Yeah,
met all over the world, and that's the big takeaway from this. I think it's an extremely unique industry. I think it's a big family. And as much as we want to compete against each other, we still wish everybody the best at the end of the day. We want the horses to be safe, the jockeys to be safe. And I just think it's a pretty cool industry as a whole, and the people of this part of the world, very genuine, love their horses, fantastic people. This is a great, safe place. And yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, it's a fantastic industry.
that's awesome, Dean. Thanks so much for joining us today on Heady
No
Cargo
problem.
Connections. It's been really, really good to chat.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I
Thanks so much,
enjoyed
Dean.
it. Yeah.
Excellent. Cheers. Talk
Take
soon.
care.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.